we are commencing a brand new program from today, referred as the 11th hour, and our discussion is commencing with two distinguished personalities today. And let me do the formal introduction. Mr. Algama is joining us today, who happens to be the Deputy Secretary to Treasury, along with a wonderful gentleman, Mr. Harsha, who happens to be the CEO of Thikshana. Very good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I sincerely hope both of you are keeping very, very well.
Yeah.
Commencing on our program, and firstly, thank you so much for joining us. Let me speak to Mr. Algama, because I think we are going to talk about a very interesting topic today. And before we kick things off, Mr. Algama, could you kindly explain to us as to what exactly is this term procurement mean in layman's terms?
We call it public procurement. Public procurement is very important in any economy. About nearly 25% of the government total budget is spent to public procurement system. At the moment, procurement is basically manually handled, but now even procurement of day-to-day basic stationery items through a number of infrastructure projects. Whole spectrum of procurement of the government sector is covered by public procurement term.
So you mean to explain to us that it is purely funded purely by the public? Yes,
because procurement is basically, there are a couple of sources of funds. Government of Sri Lanka funds, foreign funded projects also we have. And now if you look at the magnitude of the procurement value, now the procurement value about nearly 25% of total government spending is through public procurement system. Right now, the manual system, all the procurements, there are a lot of issues in the procurement system in the manual right now.
So you're further trying to emphasize that, Mr. Algama, there's quite a lot of mismanagement, if we would say, in this manual system.
Yes, procurement is a subject, very vulnerable to corruption and number of irregularities in the system. Right. Because when procurement is handled manually, and the time delay, the quality failures, some malpractices are in the system. Now, because of that, we lost annually billions of rupees through the system. It is wasted, basically.
So, I think that is the main reason why, isn't it, Mr. Algama, that this particular institution is now looking at this through electronic method of introducing this. So basically, you're here to further explain to us with regard to this electronic government procurement system which you are planning to introduce.
Yes. In 2017, we had a conference here, South Asian Region Procurement Conference, under the title of Electronic Government Procurement for South Asia. And at the conference, we revealed that Sri Lanka is lagging behind to many neighboring countries in South Asia. And if you look at all other countries, they have they have introduced electronic system to manage their procurement process. Now, therefore, we decided to introduce a similar system in public sector in Sri Lanka also. And then we with the cabinet approval, we started developing system rather than buying with Thikshana, that is a company under the University of Colombo. And right now, system has been developed, and we are in the implementation process at the moment.
So, Mr. Algama, you mean to say that this is a brainchild of our own creative minds within Sri Lanka itself? So, I think that is something that we can definitely boast about.
Yes. This is a homegrown system rather than adapting system from outside. And because now at the moment procurement is handled manually according to the set of regulation that is a legal framework also provided by public procurement guidelines. And within the guidelines, we decided to develop a system in compliance with the requirement in the legal framework.
You also did mention, Mr. Algama, that you compared Sri Lanka with the other countries internationally. So when you compare it with Sri Lanka and internationally, you mean to say we are also on par with them when it comes to this system all in all?
Our guidelines is basically harmonized guideline with World Bank, ADB and Japanese JICA. Therefore, e-procurement system also within the legal framework of this regulatory framework. And starting from procurement notice publication level, until the final procurement award is made, throughout the system, I think the whole process is now being automated.
It's in the process of being automated. Yeah. So when we look at it from a percentage aspect, have we at least completed a decent percentage by now, Mr. Algama, or where exactly does it stand?
System has been developed about more than 85% of the system has been developed, and at the implementation level we are a little bit lagging behind because government organization are now only they are introducing this electronic government procurement system in the procurement in their own procurement process.
So it's a new approach altogether.
Yeah.
So we have to expect slight delays here and there also, right. Isn't it, Mr. Algama? Because it's a new idea, a new concept. So to embrace this and start working on those lines, right. It may take a bit of a while. And it's very clear, Mr. Algama, as you say, that when you are doing certain procurement systems manually, there's quite a lot of mismanagement, human resources, time management, all these matters are being looked into. And when we transfer the manual system into electronically, definitely there would be a certain advantage. Would you like to talk about that as well, Mr. Algama?
One of the now very important feature in the system is transparency. And now procurement, if you look at the government procurement, public procurement framework, there are a couple of principles. One is transparency, then value for money, competition, fairness, and participatory approach. And we now more than manual system, electronic system has can achieve this fundamental objectives of the procurement. When advertisement procurement notice is online, you can many vendors can view, and they can rather than they are collecting manually the document, they can download and they can submit their bids to the system. And therefore, there are a lot of saving from vendor side as well as from government organization side. The number of benefits are there. And you don't need to have any hard papers submitting here and there. Now, tender boxes also, you know that right now, manual system, you have to deposit tender document within the, before a certain time frame. And now time also we can fast track. And if it takes 1 month to finalize the tender, and within system, I think you can finalize the tender decision within a couple of weeks. And at the same time, now this is one single portal provide number of other benefits like our EGP system. Name is PROMIS. PROMIS means Procurement Management Information System.
So that's the terminology that you all have used.
Yeah,
PROMIS.
That's right. And portal provides range of information on public procurement. You can see the value of the procurement. One agency handle or a number of tenders are coming. and a number of awards are made, and number of appeals are sent. Like all the information providers, system providers this information,
So by click of a button, you're in a position to acquire all this information.
That's
is
true.
Exactly what you're trying to say. And I think it's a timely introduction, Mr. Algama, when we are also trying to battle against this COVID-19 and we are trying our best to have minimum human contact.
Yeah.
So when it is such, when all this information is freely available on the web, and you mentioned a very important terminology, that is the transparency. Transparency in any system makes things very easy for vendors, as you very correctly mentioned. And with regard to this introduction, Mr. Algama, you were also telling me earlier that across all government institutions, this is going to get implemented. Am I right?
Yes. And now not only this system, I think when you want to introduce a system, the information communication technology system for the public sector, it is always, a challenging task. Because, you have to conduct number of awareness sessions. You have to get them familiar with the system. Right now we are doing that. We are conducting awareness session for not only for government organization, but also for suppliers and vendors. And if they have to register with the system in the first place. Without registering, you can't use this,
So there is a methodology how you can actually get into this system.
There's methodology.
Right. So just by randomly, you cannot actually surf it or anything.
It is a very systematic way we are going to introduce. And most advantages are going to public sector organization. They can even save, our cost calculation indicates for entire, I told you, I think before, about 25% of the total government national budget is spent through the system. And our savings, cost savings will be more than 30 billion annually.
There's going to be like a heavy component when it comes to 30 billion.
We can easily use for some other sector development.
For that development.
Because our revenue is very limited and our expenditure is getting higher day by day.
True.
And there's a challenge always. A fiscal gap, I think we have to fill the fiscal gap through these savings rather than increasing our revenue. There is always ceiling for increase of revenue. And
these are some of the wonderful avenues you can think of.
That's true. And now when it comes to implementation, now it is more challenging than a developing system, and because people don't embrace the system automatically.
And they don't embrace it wholeheartedly as well.
Because the people get used to some
standardized methodology
and get used to some other things also, right? Now, therefore, we're very reluctant to
shift gears.
Shift to electronic system from manual system. That's the challenge we are facing right now.
I'm sure it must be a very hard challenge, but the challenge is for a good cause.
Yeah, challenge is for a good cause.
So hope things would be looked at through that perspective. Yeah. And thank you so much, Mr. Algama. We are back with our brand new program, which is referred as the 11th Hour, and we are in conversation with two distinguished personalities. We just spoke to Mr. Algama, who happened to be the Deputy Secretary to Treasury, and now we are moving on further in conversation with Mr. Harsha, who happens to be the CEO of Thekshana. A very good morning to you once again, Mr. Harsha.
Good morning. It's nice to be here.
It's more than happy to have you over here because we're talking about a very important project all in all. And Mr. Harsha, I think you would be the right personality to explain to us as to, with regard to this entire digital transformation as a whole, if you could explain to us further.
Electronic right now, what we have in Sri Lanka is, as Mr. Algama said, that we have a manual process that when it comes to the government procurement, what we have is a manual process right now. So which means now if you, normally there is an advertisement goes on the newspapers, and then there is a little box where the vendors come and they insert their bids. So this now what's going to happen very slowly, that whole process of government procurement is going to be transformed into the electronic system. So when you say electronic systems, it's similarly what you are doing right now. Basically that you go and place sealed envelopes. Similar thing is happening there. Basically, what you are doing is that you are basically online through the internet, right? So this is the public internet you are going to use. That's the vehicle that you are going to use. So so there will be like usual newspaper advertisement. There is a one portal where you can go for all the information about procurement in Sri Lanka. You can go to a single place.
So what you're trying to say is, Mr. Harsha, it is the same approach, but from paper.
It's a better way of, because right now the procurement is governed by the guidelines. And there's a guideline in Sri Lanka, as Mr. Algama pointed out. So this, the same that now in the guidelines that, the process has been outlined. That there's a technical process, there's a manual technical process. That's the one which has been now transformed into the digital system. So what you normally do is, now when there is a procurement, you go to the site, and you can register. All these vendors can register. Everybody registers there. So there is an advantage because your communication is much better. Like there can be tenders that you may not know about. Sometimes you have to go. I mean, you take a lot of pain to go through the newspapers. There are some even officers are allocated right now in some of the vendors to go through the newspapers and find out these availability of tenders. Now here, what happens is, now once you register, now you can give the interest. What the area that you would like. Now let's say that you are going to trade with computers or the ICT hardware, so you are registered with that. So once you are registered, so when there are any tender publications on the computer, that you will get either an SMS or both actually, even email notification. So you will be notified automatically that you will be notified. So that's a big thing. I think that by itself is actually gives a huge opening for everybody to be part of the portal. The other very interesting part is normally people are very scared. Our market is very small. So when you go there and the place of bid, normally you put a sealed envelope. So now even when you do the bidding also, or we call it in a shopping methodology, we call it a request, the quotations, uploading quotations. So basically those also that it gets encrypted. So it's like sealing your sealed envelopes. It's just similar way. So that you seal the envelopes, you place it in a box. Likewise, you also submit your bid online, and that gets encrypted. So when the opening day comes, so you close it. So no one can see it. Not even the administrators can see it. The system can't see it. So it opens it up. Then it goes to the evaluation. So the whole process, what we have done right now, starting from registration of vendors and what we call the procuring entities, these are the government agencies, all of that process now been automated up to the point of evaluation and award. So the whole process at the very end. So basically there are a lot of easiness in the sense like I'm talking about. It's very much easier to use. Like for instance, the evaluation. For instance, now there are some bottlenecks in our manual system. Like one of the big problem that we have is the evaluation. The time takes for evaluation. Now that also we have made it easier, so they can get together online. I mean, you don't have to come together unless, of course, that if you want, that you can have a virtual meeting using, we are going to give a platform for that, either Zoom or Microsoft. That also. So they can get together and either offline or online, asynchronous, not synchronous. Now, usually when you have a technical meeting, technical evaluation committee meeting, you have to come together. Now, 3 of us have to sit together and decide on, can go through. But you can do asynchronous. You can evaluate asynchronously, and then you can upload that your the evaluation can be uploaded. So that goes to the procuring committee, then the award can happen. So all of this process makes it faster. So at the end of the day, there are a lot of data on procurement also will be available for public as well. Like we would know how many cars you purchased, the government had purchased how many cars, how many desktops that you have, the computers if you take, how many desks that you have purchased. At the end of annually, we can look at so many, there are a lot of reports will be available. Right?
Under each area.
Each area. So we can even figure out how many people have participated in the tender. So these management data, the information, data and information, the data gives you can actually do a various statistical analysis and you can come to some conclusions. That data is also, we are going to make it available as a public data. Right, and then that data can be used. Now, next year when we plan, we would know how many desks that you have purchased this year. So we know that the next year, what is the annual requirement for desks, annual requirement for cars, annual requirement for pencils, even your simple paper, right?
Future forecast.
So you can forecast. You can do all of that planning very well. And also the prices we would know. Whether it's a fluctuation of prices, all of that from a system we can actually monitor. So this is a very important, when we do this transformation, it's one of the biggest transformation that the government is going to, carry out. Now, like in any country, this transformation, because after salaries, the procurement is the largest what government spends on. So it's by itself, it's a huge transformation. It's a government transforming itself.
A massive
transformation without realizing. So the Ministry of Finance right now is providing a platform that is a software as a service, where anybody can come and actually use, especially the procuring entities, like Ministry of, by itself, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Agriculture. Now today, right now on the system, there are about 7 tenders are right now available. Right now today, one actually opened today, that's a CWE. And there are another 6 are going to be open, especially the LECO and CEB tomorrow. And the LECO is opening, I think there are about 4 right now. So I think for the health ministry is coming on board, and all of these people actually now come on board. So with that, there will be huge transformation that's going to take place. There's another important part I want to tell you now. When you look at the comparatively what we have done, we started this whole process, as Mr.Algama pointed out, in 2017. And we studied similar systems, in the world. So what we have done is, anyway, we are late. Now, when we look at Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, all of these countries have already adopted electronic government procurement. And they have various stages. And in fact, some of the countries, I think, have gone into the contract management as well. So right now, where we are right now, if you look at it, we have now done the full system. For most of 90% of the procurement right now, this system can handle right now. So normally, there is something called 80 to 20. There is a rule that's called 80 to 20. Right. Normally, just consumables comes under what you call shopping. Like you buy paper, pencils. That's a substantial amount in the government. And that comes under 80% of the government procurement. Now that this system can handle all that 80% without any issue. There is something called works also. Works can be also handled. Then you have other 20% is normally these, what you call the normal national competitive bidding and international competitive bidding. These are processes that we talk about. And that 20%, out of the 20% right now, the system can handle up to about 20%. Almost 20%. roughly about 5%. I think there are very complicated tenders. You call it an EOI. This call a two-stage, two-envelope biddings, and those are the ones that we are now addressing. Yeah, infrastructure, the consultancy kind of thing. So when you take overall, the system is now very versatile, and we have thought about a lot of issues regarding, we looked at some of the countries, initially the World Bank helped us to look at Georgian system, which had won many accolades worldwide. And so when you look at the transactions, we are very similar to that market. So we looked at that system. And so we went through, because it has a very interesting kind of features that we would have wanted to have subsequent, and that is like the automated evaluation. The computer decides on its own who is the best, the most responsive bidder of when the bid is done. So then we realized that when we look at this part of the world, because what happened was when we developed the system, we had a third-party auditor who actually looked at the system. So when they looked at the system and we looked at this region, this part of the world, what are the things that are actually taking place? When we look at that, in order to do a fully automated evaluation, we realize you need to have that means that when you prepare specs for a procurement, it has to be precise. And then it's much easier to evaluate, the system can evaluate. But there are gradients, there are gray areas in procurement right now. If you take the works, the consultancies, there are gray areas. So those ones, we need to have what you call if you look at there is a manual intervention. So how do we do the manual intervention? So we looked at the Indian system, we look at what the Bangladesh is doing. We looked at the India is doing. So being late also, there are advantages.
True.
Because you don't have to, you are not making, you're not making the same mistake, what they had made, right? Twice.
True.
So we managed to learn from those systems. So technically speaking, now, the other day there was a ADB survey that Mr. Algama and I both actually filled that survey. What I realized was we have thought about almost the future and basically about how the expansion and all of that actually we have thought about right now. So now there is Electronic Government Procurement Secretariat is there. There is a staff is being now recruited. Already set up. So it had been in operation right now for almost more than a year, right? So silently we have been So we have been working. So actually I think this COVID period we had technically we had some issues because training people. Because Sri Lanka is a country, when you do the digital transformation, it's very hard. So our systems are not going to be easy for people to sort of come and overnight, transformation. It's not. You can't expect also now like CWE. There are traders who have, they have been doing it manually. So they would like to, when there is a digital transformation comes, it's very hard. Right, it's a very hard transformation. So how do we do this now? So we have been conducting for the last 1 year. I think we conducted roughly about almost more than 20 awareness sessions, and then during the COVID period we did a Zoom awareness programs, and I think now because of these problems right now these days, current issues, that the present situation, I think it's much better that if we can use this system more often, so that the people don't have to travel, because they can do it from home itself. So some of the issues that we have identified, in order to give a very user-friendly system, you have to have a good internet connection. So when I say good internet connection,
that's
today,
a basic requirement.
It's a basic requirement. But that now right now available, I think every provider,
network provider,
it has to the signal has to the connectivity has to be there throughout the country. right?
So we have a key area.
There's a key now. Let's say you can't actually confine this to Colombo. I mean, everywhere that you have.
That's not possible.
So what we have realized now, in fact, I have worked with so many other online systems. Now, if you take students right now apply for their universities online, then we did the fertilizer subsidy online. All of that we have done, even to the areas where to the periphery. I mean, where the hinterland, right? I mean, where the farms but those areas we have people managed to upload this using mobile connection, and now the mobile penetration is very high in this country. It's about almost, I think, if you take 2G, if you take 2G, it's throughout the country. 3.5, roughly about 85% or the 90%. 4G is about 20. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have a good 3G connection, 3.5 somewhere,
that is sufficient.
That would be sufficient. So we are trying to make it a better and better every day with a low bandwidth to do this work. But at least there is a minimum bandwidth is required. Otherwise, you will not be able to upload.
So what you mean to say, Mr. Harsha, you're working on these aspects?
So we are working on getting, now what we are trying to do is to find out what are the problems that you encounter in the rest of the country. So then looking at those, we should be able to adjust our software. So we are tweaking every day, to make it better and better. So overall, I think technology-wise, we are par with either any of the best systems in the world. We have used the open source based technologies. Encryption is very high encryption. In fact, this system is now ready for digital certificates. So when the country is geared for that, we can use it. So it's a matter of, I think, in the future, we are very much, we are looking at a lot of other technologies like blockchains and the AI, artificial intelligence. All of that actually we are looking at. So we are moving forward. We are trying to make this software very intelligent. Right now, when you compare with the rest of the world, if you look at India, I had a lot of discussion with Dr. Ram Somasundaram, who is the third-party evaluator. And several other people, like the Georgian Mr. Tatu, who was the originator of the Georgian system. So we had a lot of international collaboration. And when we discussed the technology, what we realized is that we are par with any country in the world, any system in the world. Even now, one of the best systems actually you find is in Korea, South Korean system.
That happens to be one of the
basically
best
like when you benchmark, there are different systems that now now when you benchmark about systems, you can say European systems like Ukraine. Ukraine has with all other online EGP plus the contract management. Now, so they benchmark systems.
It's a precise system.
They will say that this system is like some of the best systems, the best. And from the Asian systems, if you look at it, the South Korea, Bangladesh. So they use, now Bangladesh uses the digital certificates, whereas India is not using it. We are using a one-time passwords like...
Is there a reason why they do not have certain...
No, like India is a massive country. Now, I have looked at the systems like every province of every state of India has their own systems. Like now the Kerala has its own system, the Tamil Nadu has its, and then there's a central system that run by in Delhi. Okay. So all the systems we have looked at it. Now, like for instance, they use a very simple methods of uploading their bids, like using Excel sheets, for instance, what you call intelligence given with the macros that had been given. So when they upload the bids, it's automatic before encryption. Basically whatever the numbers that you put in, it just verifies through by the Excel sheet itself. Now, if you look at the Georgian system is evaluated through formulas. And there is a formula that's a totally automated evaluation. So that's a very hard, but there is no encryption there. They don't use encryption because...
Which is a necessity.
Which is a necessity for Sri Lankan part. So we are using encryption. We are using a very high encryption. In fact, we are using 256. There is a very high, very, and also whatever the documents we upload, For instance, we make sure that those documents are uploaded that no one can actually challenge in a court of law. Like, so we use what you call a hash value for each document. So you will see the hash value, you can keep it. So all authentication is very high. So we ran through all of that with the international experts. And so what I'm trying to say is that our system, and comparatively, our system, when you compare, I think it's par with any system in the world. So there is, we don't have to worry about, people don't have to worry about. Yeah. So we have the technology also. In Sri Lanka, we have the technology.
And the human resources.
We have the resources. Well. And in fact, what we have, although it's a homegrown, we have done it for our own guidelines. And the data is not privy to any international agency, or so that data is kept within Sri Lankan jurisdiction. So what I'm trying to say is that no one can actually come and take the confidentiality. So overall, I think we have done a good system, I guess.
Done and tested.
Yeah, we are testing right now. It's going through quality control. So we are still doing it.
You're in the process.
We are rolling out right now, and then almost we are, as Mr. Algama said, 85% of the framework is done. So we have a tweaking to do to make sure that the technology, and when we tweak that, right.
I think you did speak about this, Mr. Harsha, but just as a slight recap, I think you have already elaborated about the technicalities of this through an electronic aspect. If you can just touch on one or two more points with regard to this.
Well, some of the things I want to emphasize is actually this. Some of the hardest part of it would be to popularize this, because this is, as Mr. Algama said, you can develop the best systems in the world. If people are not using it, then
how they embrace themselves into this.
In Sri Lanka, what we see is we are a very ancient country, so we take things very slowly.
We cling on to things.
Yeah, once we do that, once we do that, right. It sticks into your system for a long time. Now, our manual procurement, I think they are for almost a century, I think. The British had introduced it. So we are now slowly, taking this. So these, so it's like for changing, to bring the people, to bring them to the digital environment is very hard. But one thing I must tell you, we are not that IT illiterate. If you take Sri Lanka, for instance, now we have about 50%, we are roughly coming to about 40, between 40 and 50. We are IT literate. So when you take the younger generation, about 80% of them have used the computers, and it's not a problem for them. And I think about 3.5 million people of this country, daily basis, they use Facebook.
They do.
They do Facebook. I mean, there's no issue with that. So Instagram or any social media.
Not a new platform at all.
It's not at all. So this is a very simple platform, and what we did was actually we gave it to a lot of people, and I got their feedback also. So we made it a very simple to operate, simple steps, user-friendly, and also trying to make it attractive. Now, if you look at the Indian systems, they are not, when you look at them, they're not very attractive. They're not flashy. They're not attractive. I mean, the colors, and they're very gaudy colors. But technically, they are fantastic. They are some of the best systems in the world. But I try to sort of bridge all of this together. So, there should be some sort of you need to make the system user-friendly, technically, the best technology that we should use. And in addition to that, the appealing to the people who use it, right?
So that they will keep logging in.
Yeah, when I gave it to the third party who was an Indian, He looked and said, oh, the system is very nice. I mean, I compliment the system. I mean, the colors, I mean, that he said is very nice.
So you're like, what is the detail?
Yeah, when I looked at the Kerala system, appearance, I was like, oh
contrast.
My goodness, it's a very contrast because our systems, Sri Lankan systems are much better than the India, I mean, better looking, I would say. The color-wise, the colorful, the GUIs. But when you look at technically when you look at them, Indian systems are they are very
so
advanced.
You're like gone into all these nitty-gritty
all of that,
areas.
we are looking at it like how to design a system and how the people will feel about how the colors, the information that you are getting. So we are looking at the very
data.
much, and also the some of the things that legal aspects of it. I mean, like when you sign an online contract, how do we do that? How do we agree on that? Can they stand in a court of law in the country? So all of that we have looked at it. So I think generally, I think we have covered, almost everything, and technically plus all that. So we have to now wait and see how people will adopt it. And the adaptation is one thing.
On this.
How to work on this. And that's one of the hardest things in any digital system in the world.
I think that is a challenge that anyway one would have to face.
Once the people start using it, and I'm 100% sure that people will keep on coming back. Now I look at for the last 4 weeks, there are about 23,000 visits.
Already. That's a good number, I guess, for an initial period.
23,000 visits, and regular basis they were coming back. So that is something of a huge thing. But when it comes to the locations, I looked at it. Colombo is the main part, the concentrated, mostly
visitors.
From the number of hits. And if you look at then the next one is Kandy, because that we had a training program in Kandy. And so because of that, we have about 30%, 20% or whatever. Rest of it from the rest of the country. And
so awareness programs are being conducted?
Right. Yeah, right now our awareness programs are for the vendors. For the last... initially we started with the procuring entities, like the ministries.
Right.
Because they are the ones who have to
should know about their ABCs.
How to float tenders, how to float a tender. Then you have to, we are concentrating on the vendors. So all of them, now there are about 500 vendors already registered.
So it's going face by face.
Yeah. Basically, we started as a face by face. Now we are in the level of, today is the first program we are talking officially. Yeah. This is the first official program.
First official program
about
Radio Sri Lanka.
Yeah. So this will actually, I think, will be now almost all the media. So we are encouraging. Now, at the moment, there are about 500 vendors have already registered. So they have almost 400 and some, and plus there are about another 100 pending.
Seems as if it's a good turnout.
So it's a good turnout. There are about 500 people are there right now. And procuring entities about 100 and roughly about 100, right? 100. Almost 100 procuring entities.
Decent number too.
So a very decent number. So the next year what will happen is now normally the vendors have to go and register with each ministry for their procurement. Now they don't have to do it. They can come to a single portal. They can register. And in fact, during this period, government can float as many tenders they want. And the people can participate. So that's the achievement, I think, that we have.
Seems it's going to be a great achievement with time, and I think the global comparison also was covered. Or would you like to elaborate?
Well, globally, in the sense, like I'll tell you this, we are lagging far behind as far as the participation is concerned right now. We have the technology as of now. Technology we have right now, right? As for the participation of that, we are lagging behind because other countries, even if you look at Bhutan has an online system, right? Nepal has it. I mean, Maldives does not have it. Rest in this part of the world, which is South Asia, Sri Lanka is the one, I think, far behind when it comes to EGP. But then we can't now say far behind because now the platform is available. It's already set up. It's a matter of time. I think we will also go in that direction.
So it's, I think, a timely question of mine as well. I just want to know, how do you intend to further roll this out?
Basically, it's awareness. I think day by day, and I'm sure Now, because of the challenging times, I think more and more people will become part of this. And my wish is, I think by next year, almost all the shopping in the country, it's like the partial NCB, National Competitive Bidding, and some ICBs will be on this system. So we are looking at fairly a big number turnout by next year. So we are getting ready for that also. And even we are not only doing this, we are doing another additional thing. We are now making the system ready for online payment. That means a cashless. So in terms of like you have a bid security, all of that payments will go through the Lanka Clear, and we are connecting all these systems together. So so it will be a huge platform. It's actually connecting with the company registrar. We are giving so many APIs. And then we are also connecting it to the Lanka Clear, where like all the banks will be connected to the system through this through Lanka Clear. So this will be one of the biggest. That's why I said this is one of the biggest transformation that the government is actually right now undertaking, and I hopefully by next year I think we'll move so fast. I think
sounds should so much of positivity out there with this so-called introduction
and the saving and all that we talked about. It will be a huge thing for the government of Sri Lanka.
Seems there's going to be a massive turnout of saving in that term aspect. And I think it has been a very, very informative conversation today, since this happens to be our very first program referred as the 11th hour, and our discussion was with two gentlemen, Mr. Algama, the Deputy Secretary to the Treasury, along with Mr. Harsha, the CEO of Thekshana. Thanking you both so very much for joining us in our inauguration program as well. Wishing both of you a pleasant day, and safety first though, and wishing you safety and good health.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you.